Welcome to the PD Pet Care Vlogs. I'm Dr. Cath Watson, and today I'd like to share with you some research that's been undertaken by Dr. Kate Hill with a Healthy Pets New Zealand grant. This research was done some time ago. However, I think it's just as relevant now as it was back in 2008, and that's because it's on antimicrobial resistance. So while climate change tends to dominate the news cycles now as far as one of the major impending issues for the human population, one of the big things that I think is largely underestimated is the impact that our antimicrobial use is having and the resistance problems that are developing. So many of the commonly treated diseases that we take for granted we can treat with antibiotics, actually there's more and more of those infections are actually becoming resistant, and it's getting harder to treat them. So things like tuberculosis, which for most of us in first world countries are almost unknown, for people in third world countries, those infections are actually getting quite difficult to treat. So what this particular piece of research did was looked at the patterns of antimicrobial use by New Zealand veterinarians treating common infections that we see, so skin infections, urinary tract infections, that sort of thing. This was a postal survey. It was sent out to over 800 veterinarians throughout the country. There was 393 that responded, so that's actually a pretty good response rate. And the most common antimicrobials that were being prescribed by New Zealand veterinarians were amoxicillin and clavulanic acid combinations, cephalexin and fluoroquinolones. Interestingly, these are mostly broad-spectrum drugs that the World Health Organization considers as critically important for human health. And these are the ones that are being most commonly prescribed, often without culture and sensitivity and often for too short of time periods. So as I say, this was back in 2008. My impression is that this is just as relevant today as it was then, and I think the onus is on all of us. So that's not only the veterinarians that are prescribing, but also the companies that are actually producing products to be prescribed, that we make products available, and, well, first of all, that we only prescribe when antibiotics are actually needed, and if we're not sure, then we should be doing culture and sensitivity first, making sure that the bugs are there and that we are prescribing the correct antibiotics to kill those bugs and using them for an appropriate period of time. But also there's, I think, some pressure on the industry there to make sure that actually there are products available which are not perhaps so critically important for human health that we can use in animals, because at the end of the day, we all know it's very difficult to give tablets to cats, so we will tend to reach for the ones that we know we can get down. When those ones are the critically important drugs for human health, then they're still going to be the ones that end up being reached for because they are the easiest to give and we know they're going to be given and treat infections that we're trying to treat. So, like I say, this is research from 2008, a critically important issue for not only our veterinary patients but also for us as a human species. Those resistant infections are only going to get more and more common. So I think it's really important that we keep that at front of mind whenever prescribing antibiotics or antimicrobials for infections in veterinary practice. I'd encourage you to go and check out the Healthy Pets website to find out more about this research and all the other research that we have funded over the last 20 plus years.